everybody. And now let's talk automation.
Hello, everybody. Happy Third Thursday. We have got a great conversation headed your way with Harrison and Jessica, and of course, Kieran and I. And we will get to that in a moment. But before we get started, I want to remind everybody it's a live event. Let's make it feel live. Throw some comments in there. Tell us where you're joining from and contribute to the conversation. We'll do our best to pull comments or questions up onto the screen as we go. But Kieran and I's favorite thing is to see the conversations that happen in the comments as well. But in addition to that, before we get to all the questions that I've got for everybody, I want to go around the room and do some introductions. So Harrison, I'm going to come to you first. If you can give everybody a little bit of information about who you are and why you're joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for inviting me on. It's a pleasure. I'm Harrison Goode. I'm one of the co-founders of Edge Tech. We're a emerging technology recruitment firm based out of the UK. As a business, we work on all types of exciting and new emerging technologies, from RPA through to data science, machine learning, and AI. And we recruit for organizations right across the globe, in the UK, into Europe, and in the US, from all sizes of organizations through to small scale-ups and startups that have received funding, through to huge enterprise organizations. So yeah, that's a bit about us.
Wonderful. Thank you. So Jessica, can you also do hold on. We've got some comments coming in. We've got some other joining us right before I come over to the other US native. If you can do your introduction for me as well.
Awesome. Well, Brittany, happy to have you here. Thank you so much for having me. Emma, happy birthday to you. I'm sure we'll sing to you later. And thanks for those that are joining now, like Brittany, and those who are probably joining us in the future. I'm Jessica Zych. I'm managing director of 40 Oak. We're a niche recruiting firm specialized in intelligent automation. So we couple advisory and project solutions with our subject matter expert. We advise on standing up COEs, standardizing operating models, etc. With our traditional workforce solutions, we provide contract to hire, direct hire for all of our clients nationwide. So similar, I think, to Harrison, where small startups all the way up to really large enterprise Fortune 100 companies, all here in the US. We do have offshore and nearshore resourcing as well. So I've been in IT recruiting and resource model advisory for the past 10, going on 11 years, with a heavy focus in intelligent automation for the past 3. So really excited to be a part of the conversation today and talk about a super hot topic of the market right now, how to win the war on talent.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the birthday wishes. And Kieran, I do see your comment in there as well. Thank you. So I'm going to come to you then, Kieran, to do a quick introduction, and then we'll dive right into the meat of the discussion.
Okay. Co-host with Emma on Third Thursday. I've been in business for 27 years plus. I have been recruited and I have recruited nationally, locally, internationally. I've offshored, nearshored, farshored, and everything in between, and any shore. Largely for technology roles. So I kind of know from an employer point of view, and I'm going to give you my personal view today, out of all the firms that I've worked for and all the knowledge that I've gained, what you should be doing to position yourself as an employer to attract the talent, and as an employee to actually get recruited and hired as well. And then maybe we'll dip into one or two of the things that we're seeing hot or not in the market, anything tech-wise and culture-wise and employment-wise as well. Happy birthday, Emma.
Thank you. And then I do see that we've got some folks coming in from all around the world as well. So we've got some representation from India as well as Iran. So again, we've got people from all over the world, and we've got some viewpoints from different marketplaces as well, which is what Kieran and I were hoping to do by bringing some folks from kind of different parts of the world together so that we get a really collective view of what the market looks like and what it's like to recruit top talent right now. We are all hearing about these big macro trends, and we're going to dive kind of right into some of that idea, starting off with a little bit of the Great Resignation. So Harrison, I want to come to you with the first question. So obviously, we've all heard about what's happening. We've all seen it firsthand, probably with friends and family members changing jobs. But how has the Great Resignation really changed the landscape and how companies need to think about recruiting talent?
Yeah, so it's obviously been a big talking point over the last 6 to 12 months with the Great Resignation. I think it's had a huge impact, and I think the outcome of that initially has been an even higher demand for talent. There's, as we know, in the emerging technology sector, there's already a war on good talent. There's a skill shortage, but this has pushed that even further. And I think because of the Great Resignation, I think candidates have really realized their worth. And if their employer hasn't been perhaps treating them right, or they're not too happy where they are, I think they're now more able to go out and find something new and find something a lot easier than perhaps previously. And I think a downside to that we've seen as well in the industry is that sometimes I think jobs are seen as a bit more interchangeable rather than lifelong careers. So I think with organizations at the moment, I think once they've hired people, I think retention needs to be, much more of a bigger talking point than it is currently. And I think that's what organizations should focus on. In the market today, candidates have got all the power. The job seekers have got all the power. It's really flipped on its head. And I know that everyone that we speak to, I think Jessica will probably say the same as well. Every candidate we're speaking to has probably got 4 or 5 other opportunities on the go. So they've got the cream of the crop, they've got the selection, and they've got the power. And everything from this, the Great Resignation, talking to candidates, if they have a bad experience through the interview process and the recruiting process, it can really put them off of an organization. And it can be something simple, just like long interview feedback times and not hearing back from that organization. It can really have a big impact on their thoughts of the organization. And I think the interview process now, off the back of the sort of Great Resignation and how the market currently is at present, I think the process is more two-way, more so than ever. Previously, it was, the organizations had the power to, attract people, and they could be quite selective with who they hired. But now it's, the candidates and the job seekers are interviewing you. They're trying to figure out if you're right or not. So that whole Great Resignation piece has just reinforced that and exacerbated it. And it's a really interesting time at the moment, I think, both for job seekers and for organizations in terms of what they need to do and how they need to react to what we've seen.
So thank you, Harrison. So you brought up something there that it's kind of much more of a two-way street now with this candidate-driven experience or candidate-driven hiring process. So Jessica, I want to come to you and dive a little bit deeper into that idea of, if the hiring manager or the HR manager is suddenly on kind of like a two-way interview, what do those responsibilities look like across that landscape of those different people that candidates are interacting with? And how has that job really shifted throughout all of this? Oh, you're muted. It happens to the best of us.
How did that happen? It's 2022.
Kieran's smiling because he does it all the time. So he's feeling like
at this point I would be a pro at this, but here we are, muting myself. It's a great question. I mean, I think to Harrison's point, pre-pandemic, there was, the candidates were not really in control. It was, impress me if you can in the interview. We have 10 other candidates that we can go through that can get this job. And things have really shifted since then. I mean, I think, when we're talking about a candidate's experience, there's a few things that we really want to take into consideration. I mean, in order to not only attract the right candidate, but also to retain them for the long term, because the candidate experience, while it starts at the beginning of the recruiting process, it really affects their first 6 to 12 months. There's lots of studies that have been done. If you have a good candidate experience, you have an 85% chance of retaining that employee through year 2, versus those that had a really rocky one tend to fall off around 6 months. So when we're looking at the responsibilities, it's kind of at every junction that we face at this point in the hiring process. So that starts with knowing your value proposition as a hiring manager and a hiring team, and being able to really effectively communicate that to everyone that the candidate is going to be speaking to. So that's your HR, internal talent acquisition. It could be your agency or external partner that you've chosen to help you on the search. And in that case, I will say, choose your partners very wisely. They are an extension of your brand. But kind of going back, the time to interview, I think Harrison commented on this. we know this in the recruiting world, we say time kills all deals, but the longer that you're taking time to set up interviews, to get feedback back to that candidate, you're giving more time to your competition to finish the process, get an offer out. And those that are getting the offers out, making decisions really quickly are a lot of times winning. There's more that comes into play, obviously, but really having that value proposition, being able to make really timely, efficient decisions in the hiring process is going to really take it to the next level. In terms of, I think when you're looking, and you can look holistically, and I think be realistic with yourself. If you can't reach the market rate for talent, sometimes that means massaging your own expectations on the back end and saying, okay, maybe I can't get someone with 10 years of experience in this space. Maybe I need to look for someone with 5 and really coach them up to that 10. So, the responsibility, it kind of does touch along all of those places. And I think that the more that we start to identify where each individual within that process, and that goes into onboarding also, can really sell the opportunity, sell the company. I know that not everyone feels like they're in a sales job, but when you're hiring at this point, we are, because every candidate, like Harrison said, that we're talking to in the US right now has multiple offers on the table at any given point. They're talking, I don't even ask people, are you interviewing anymore? I'm saying, where are you interviewing? How many interviews do you have going on? Where are you in that process? So, we really want to make sure that, everyone has that value proposition and can communicate it effectively. And lastly, I will say, when it does come to the offer stage, I've heard recently, I've run into it with a few clients, they're trying to go in low and have a candidate negotiate up to where their salary initially was. I would say that's a really bad strategy, especially right now. Candidates are looking at it as, the offer that you give me first is how you're valuing me within your organization. If you were, coming in lower than what, the recruiter told you that they were looking for, or what they disclosed to you at the beginning, I think, you're really shooting yourself in the foot if you're coming in 15K. If you have it, I would, I hate to bring it back to Vegas, but bet max, because, other organizations are doing that, and they're really enhancing the experience that way.
So I've got some questions too, because Kieran's been putting some stuff in the chat. And I think maybe we can kind of come back around to some of these ideas on the back end, because in addition to hearing about how things are candidate driven and that we really are in a market where they've got the control, there's also, the stories of people who have applied to 300 jobs and gotten 4 interviews. And, so we can dive into maybe some of the reasons for that, or what strategies to use to avoid that. But at the end of the day, the candidate still has a responsibility as a part of this process, and they do still have to put their best foot forward. So Kieran, I want to come to you of all of that experience over the last, we'll round down to 20 years for you, make you feel young and sprightly. Can you share from your perspective, what are things that candidates can do to really stand out, and what is their responsibility through this process?
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant question, and we'll lead on to it. Let me tell you the best thing I ever did for my career, and I'll tell you this because I'm hoping this sets the standard or the outcome for everyone else. I used the phrase, when I want to get my teeth done, I go to a dentist. When I want to get my car done, I go to a mechanic, and so on. And they are not the most fundamental things in my life. Now, my job, my career, I take very seriously. It's the place where I spent most of my day. It is the place where I earn my income that allows me to have a particular lifestyle and support my family and friends and sisters and brothers and parents and everything else. But very often what I have done is I've just applied for jobs, put something out there, chucked a CV in, never thought about it. And then I wondered why I was being treated unfairly and why I was one of 300 and something. Instead, I actually went to a career consultant, and I would recommend this for everyone. And I worked with a career specialist who turned around and worked with me. Well, look, what are the things you actually like doing? And what are the things you're good at? And what are the things you're not currently good at? And what is the culture of an organization that would best suit you? Is it remote working? Is it always in an office? Is it hybrid? Is it someone that's going to develop and mentor you? Is it someone that's going to leave you alone, and on you go? And then what are the careers or the sectors that are going to be hot, that guarantee paying your mortgage or whatever else in the next numbers of years? And we sat down and did that tremendous exercise. And then I narrowed down the types of jobs, the types of industries, and the types of roles that I could put my skills forward for and know that I had a high chance of actually getting a successful outcome. Now, when I turned up to those employers, I was turning up with skills that were relevant to that particular industry. They knew that I had the aptitude and the attitude, both really key things, that even if I wasn't the perfect candidate, and this is something that everybody needs to know, you do not have to tick every single box, even on the essentials. Sometimes there is a gap where you can fit yourself in, but you need to evidence in interview you've got the aptitude and the attitude to do that. How do you do that? Well, look, there's been no job too small, too large in my life to get something done. I walk around my current employer's office. If there's a piece of litter on the floor, I will pick it up. I will put it in a bin because I want to create the culture that says nothing is beneath me, you know. But again, obviously, right person, right role, and whatever else. So come prepared for the interview. Apply for the things that, you know, you're suited for and have skills for. And then when you do turn up, know a little bit of something about the firm at least, because you owe it to yourself, because you're going to spend a lot of working or waking hours there, to have actually done a little bit of something that says this is the firm for me. For those who are employing on the opposite end, you hope that those candidates appear in front of you. You recognize you're not going to get perfection, but equally speaking, you shouldn't just take anyone. You should look for an exceptional employees. I don't go to a movie and want standard or average actors in an average movie, eating average popcorn, drinking average drinks to appear in front of me, nor do I want non-exceptional candidates who've either got the skills or can get the skills to go in place. So I want to impress those individuals. It's up to me to sell the role. And what I will do is I will talk honestly about what it is and what it isn't, because I don't want someone sitting there counting down the months to go, I've got 12 months. I don't want my CV to look bad and I'm going to exit. So you have a responsibility to be honest with the candidates. And the other thing is you want someone who comes in who's slightly different piece of the jigsaw than anyone else, a bar raiser in some shape, form or other. It might be skill, it might be personality, it might be hunger, it might be whatever life experience who adds something different to the team, and therefore make yourself available to answer any and all their questions. They may not have them all at interview. Please don't turn up late. Please don't yawn during the interview. Yes, I've had both, and then beyond and whatever else. You know, but again, a company, you should ask me lots of questions. Come with some. If you don't know them, that's okay. Ask me afterwards. Get to speak to my manager as well, because a team takes its reflection from its leader, and get to speak to the manager's manager and whoever else you want. There is a fine line, Jessica and Harrison both mentioning it there, between an employer taking forever to make an offer, but equally speaking, look, there is an element of moving quickly, but not so quickly that you rush the process and that you as an employer or you as an employee don't understand the company. And the one thing I would say is if an employer is not willing to let you meet one or more or multiple members of their team, then who is the process really about, them or you? I don't believe in the great resignation, by the way. I believe in the great reconsideration, and that's people going to roles they weren't happy with, working for employers they weren't happy with. So take your time to do your research to actually work out where you're going, because this is such an important part of your life. And if you need professional help, please go and get it, because you're happy to spend money on ice cream, car fixing and dental. Why not the most important part of your life?
Bam. Kieran with life advice. So I do want to go off of that idea of, you know, like the people that you work with and the job that you have is such a significant part of your life. And we are hearing a lot about the great resignation being driven by certain things, or being driven by people who are, you know, looking for certain advantages or perks that come with a job. Especially in the tech industry, prior to COVID, we heard lots about break rooms, ping pong tables and snacks and slides. And now the trendy, exciting piece of that is work from home or work from anywhere. And so, Harrison, I want to understand, when a candidate comes to you and they're looking for a job, what are the main things on that priority list now? And are these rumbles that we're hearing from the media of what that looks like actually accurate?
Yeah, and I think you're right. There's been a huge shift, since the pandemic in the way that people have been working, and the areas of interest for a lot of candidates that we've spoken to have moved away completely, almost purely just focusing around salary, and it's flipped in another direction. Salary and remuneration is obviously a big talking point for your next career move. Everyone likes to earn a bit more money and feel like they're progressing in their career, but the areas of interest have definitely shifted, and I think since the pandemic, everyone's had a new taste of working, a new way of working, and a lot of people like it. There's no getting around that, and it does primarily sit around that work-life balance, but also I think what skills they're getting to improve themselves as well. I think a handful of years ago, I think Jessica will agree as well, it used to be all about salary. Whenever we started a conversation with a candidate, it would be, okay, how much is the job paying? What budget do they have for this? Very much as the first question on a call, on a conversation. But now the questions that we get are, is it remote? Can I work completely remote? Is there any travel involved? Do I have to be in the office? What hours can I work? So that we've seen that quite recently, that sort of change in questioning from the candidates, and from speaking to them, the types of things that people are looking for at the moment is things around remote working, like you mentioned, flexible working hours. So can I work whenever I want? If I'm more productive at 1 o'clock in the morning compared to doing a standard 9 till 5, can I just work whenever I want and still get the job done? There are other things around enhanced leave and other sort of family benefits that people want as well, not just for themselves, but for their loved ones, compared to what we saw before, where people were interested in, can I get a season ticket loan to London? Can my train ticket be sort of reimbursed? Do they have, like you say, ping pong tables or nap pods in your office, which used to seem like a cool thing at the time, and fruit bowls and free tea and coffee and all those sorts of things. So people have really shifted in terms of what they're after and what they truly value, and I think people's values have changed as well, and I think that the pandemic has kind of triggered that a little bit. But I think one of the other things as well is just people seeing it very much as like a stepping stone. They're thinking now, what's the move after this, and what's the move after that, and can this position get me there? So I think a mix of those things are really kind of what we see.
It's an interesting add there, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Jessica, I do want to come to you with another kind of nuance of this question. So again, one of the things that we've heard a lot about is that people are leaving behind careers that weren't serving them, or maybe bad employee experiences. Are you seeing that a lot of the people that are coming to you guys today are leaving environments that they're not happy with, or rather just looking for something different and kind of, exploring different options from that standpoint?
Great question. I think that there's a distinction that in the recruiting industry we make all the time is an active candidate or a passive candidate. Active candidates actively interviewing want to get something new, whether that is due to a negative experience that they're currently experiencing, a lack of opportunity, where they want to learn and do more and climb the ranks in the corporate ladder, but maybe there's not a clear growth trajectory for them in their existing organization. I hear that a lot. A passive candidate is going to be someone who's just, hey, I heard about this great resignation. I've heard people are making more money and have more flexible work. Like, I just want to see what's out there. So we have conversations with candidates on both sides of the fence. The motivators for making a move are going to be different for everyone. Obviously money has always been there. And like Harrison said, it's always been, I want to get that 10 to 15% increase versus the 2 to 3 that I've gotten year over year. I want that opportunity to move up, and I don't have it within my current organization. Or one that we're getting a lot right now is my firm is bringing everyone back to office 3 days a week, and I want to work fully remotely. So I am now actively looking for something new that won't require me to go in. So I think that flexibility component is certainly there. I think something that's also come up quite a bit is that, I guess unlimited PTO or flexibility in core working hours. We've gotten a lot in the US around maternity and paternity leave, which has been really interesting lately. So something to think of, a little bit more holistically of the entire employee experience. and making sure, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone's leaving a toxic work experience. It could be that they're just wanting to level up what they have. And that could be work-life balance. It could be the benefits that are being offered in maternity or paternity leave, or it could be that unlimited PTO or work where you want, when you want. Those are things that are more, I think, enticing, and people are looking at it and saying, okay, like I used to have to work where, in a commutable distance to my home, and now I can work for any company in the US and have those hours with my family, or ability to cook or work out or whatever it may be. Obviously that leads into, how do you make an employee stick around in your organization, which is, the question that I think everyone's probably scratching their head to say, how do we keep our employees then? How do we keep them happy? So
perfect segue. And I want to get everybody's thoughts on this. And Will, it's like you were planted, but you actually weren't, because this is my last question for the day. But as we take a look at this shift to remote work and complete culture changes of many companies, does this mean that work is becoming more transactional, and that, that trend of, we heard it before the Great Resignation, that the millennial generation is not loyal. If you think millennials aren't loyal, everybody now is in this camp of having so many options, and it's not normal to stay in a job for 25 years and get your pension anymore. So how does this transactional nature change the way that we look at employee retention and change the way that employees look at their jobs? I'm going to come to you first, Kieran, and make you go for a minute, and then I'm going to pull you out, and then we'll go to Harrison and end with Jessica. Rapid. Woohoo.
Yeah, okay, let me do it as quickly as I can. Then, look, transactional nature, sign yourself up for a transactional job. Don't pick your employer, go and do anything, and then just want money. Yeah, welcome, you've got a transactional job. And then you can blame the employer for the next 20 years, how awful they were because you didn't do your homework. There is a balance in life. Employers, I think, had too much power in the past. You come into work every day. Why? We ultimately don't trust you. Technology has killed distance. It has made absolutely everything possible. So all those things should be done, and anybody can work from home. But please do not underestimate the difficulties of putting that culture in place. Please do not underestimate the glue that comes from being in a caring team with a manager and employer who actually cares about you and actually wants the best for you in your career. And if that's work from home, fantastic. But you will miss out on things, particularly the culture, the team elements, the innovation, the cooler chats, the growth, and everything else that you will get being in an office. I'm not an advocate for being in the office all the time. There's some balance, but boy, do I feel sorry for employers these days when they're paying for offices 7 days a week for you to come in 1 and 2 days. All that's going to result in is probably condensed office space, no desks that you will have of your own. And if your colleagues or employees aren't in the same day, do you really have a team around you? Find something that makes you happy. Please go for it. And as an employer, bust your gut to make people happy. But as an employee, it ain't an employer's job to do absolutely everything for you at the same time.
All right, Harrison, let's get your thoughts. Rapid fire.
Good. Yeah, so I agree with Kieran. I think there needs to be a bit of a balance. I think work is definitely becoming more transactional, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think people can love what they do and they can move on. And if they're good at it and they enjoy the organization that they're working with, whether they're in the office or not, and they're working completely remotely, I think if there's a good understanding from both sides, I think it can work out. And I think if a company has the right hiring strategy and realizes that there will be churn and that, the average tenure is 2 to 3 years, then they'll be prepared for when people do move on. And if they stay on longer than that, then they'll be pleasantly surprised. But I think if they have all those elements in place, I think they'll enable themselves to ensure that they have the right people in the business all the time. And if the people are there and they initially went in for a transactional role and said, oh, no, I'm going to stay here for 2 years, and actually end up liking it and staying there longer, and the company's treated them right and done all the things that they said they can do, then I think they will, they'll stay. And I think, the transactional piece might, I guess it might come out of people's minds. I think when people go into those roles thinking that it's going to be transactional, I think they might be quite surprised if the organizations can keep up their end of the bargain and actually offer a lot of support and benefits and, work it in a sort of two-way street type manner, rather than just the employee going in and wanting everything and then just leaving and moving on to the next thing. So I don't think it's sustainable necessarily, but I think it can work from time to time.
All right, and Jessica, go ahead and round us up for the day with your thoughts on the idea.
Oh man, I have so much to say for 1 minute. I think there's so many ways to split this coin. I mean, obviously, the more flexible that you can be, the better that you kind of set yourself up to kind of catch everyone. The fact is, you're not going to. It's impossible to please everyone. It was impossible to please everyone. You know, before when we were going into offices, you may have had cold brew on tap, but they wanted hot drip coffee. Like everyone will always find something that they're not over the moon happy with. I think of allowing flexibility, I think looking even beyond just remote work and really looking at what opportunity do I give my team? How often am I checking in? Can we do offsites? Can we have employee collaboration days where we, bring people together in a meaningful way? And, maybe we're doing, cheesy virtual happy hours that everyone got sick of in the pandemic, but maybe we're bringing it back with a cool game to like give some of that camaraderie. I think, too often before it was said, we're a family, when really like we're coworkers. Maybe a controversial statement, but I do think that, we need to look at it as there is a bit of transactional nature involved. I think that that's increased a little bit, but realistically, I think if you're meeting those things that candidates and employees are looking for, which is flexibility, it is having elements of camaraderie, it is having a roadmap of how am I going to get to a position that I want to get to? Do I have opportunity for growth in this company? How can I take my career to the next level? Is there training? Is there ongoing education? I think those are tangible things that companies can provide that have nothing to do with working remotely or not remotely. So I think that can really go a long way for retention.
Thank you so much for taking some time to sit down with us, guys. And everybody who is watching, thank you for tuning in and participating in the comments. We love to see you show up and show your face, even if it's not all in person. We're making the best of our virtual world. But happy Third Thursday, everybody, and we will see you next month.
Thanks.